Hey, everybody, welcome to Tip Off again this morning. Hope you're well. Camera seems to have gotten bumped a little bit, so we'll flip it back. You can see all my messes around, but that's just how I work. Here's my bag. Oh, I was going to put on my new stuff. I forgot. Look at this, man. How sporty is this? Kind of cool, huh? Yeah, I got this at the fan shop the other day with all my kid stuff. This is what I was going to wear today for the show. Show I'm fired up for the season. I'm going to wear it evidently anyway. Let's see if it fits. Oh, it's a little tight. It's a little tight. It might be returning. Not sure we like. A little tight. All right. Anyway, for those of you that are on the audio version of this podcast instead of the video version, seems kind of crazy to you. But a bunch of things to hit off. First off, opening night tickets are available. I want to remind you, I had a nice lunch with the vice president of ticket sales. I got a lot of exciting things going on this year. And wanted to just mention that to you. Remember, Philadelphia 76ers is the opening night on December 30th. Bring the family out that's in town, experience an NBA game. Should be a great deal of fun. So come out to that. And then today, with this crappy weather and certainly not enough snow for the skiers, we're having the Ode to the Snow Gods at Level 9 Sports. I would love it if you'd come out. We're going to have a good time. Bring old ski equipment. If it's good enough to still use, then we are going to donate it to the Boys and Girls Club. It just reminded me I got to go grab some of my own. And if it's not, then we'll post it up on the wall as an ode to the snow gods, hopefully change the weather a little bit, get some good karma. We'll be barbecuing as well, and if you bring by those things, you actually get 10 to 20% off already. Unbelievably discounted prices at Level 9 Sports. Come off the 6 South exit, downtown, turn right on 4th West, and it's then right on the right-hand side, one block over, so past 700 South. So come by and join us. I'd love to see you there. All right, let's get to the various news. Last night I found out what Andre Karolinko's asking price was when he went into the market from some GMs around the league who had been negotiating with him. Sounds like he came in wanting about 4 years and starting at about $9 million a year, so somewhere up in 36 to 40. Clearly he's not getting that. He does want to come back. Any question about that was clear. Masha might be a little different on that scenario of what she's wanting to do, but it's pretty clear that Andre does want to return to the States to play in the NBA, but the asking price is significant at starting around 4 years, $9 million a year. Now, he hasn't gotten that, but supposedly Sacramento was close to 8. So these numbers seem to make you believe it's going to be awfully hard for the Utah Jazz to step up and get into this game. And it's, the Jazz are at 62, 63 million of salary, and they just simply can't go over 70. And there's some real reasons why you want to stay at about 63, 64, because then you can make a trade for up to $5 million difference and not go over the luxury tax. Now, whether that ever comes to fruition is probably a legitimate question, but I think you have to at least keep giving yourself that option. Latest talk at camp was by a few things have been revealed a little bit. One is that it seems as though CJ and Gordon are getting most of the run at 3. Burks and Raj are getting most of the run at 2. Talking to the players, they do feel those positions are interchangeable. From what I've heard, the Raja Burks matchups have been a lot of fun to watch in their little matchups. Worth noting, they have not done a lot of 5-on-5 work. In fact, I think tonight maybe some of their real first 5-on-5 work. So as much as all of us keep asking Ty for these impressions and these things, and he gives them to us, then I go to the players and I keep kind of getting this, well, we haven't seen enough. And what I was trying to figure out about why that is, it's because they have just done very, very little 5-on-5 work. Tonight and then Saturday's the scrimmage at 7 o'clock. I certainly hope you'll come on out and get here for that, because it's free, open to the public, should be a great deal of fun, and it's our first glimpse really at seeing these guys. So it should be really, really cool to catch that. That's our first chance. Then Monday we're in Portland, and Wednesday. So those 3 sequences and those both games are televised as well as on radio. And as we found out, by the way, the Jazz dancers are wearing their Santa outfits on the preseason game on Wednesday, which really might make it worth coming all by itself. So those are the kind of stories out of there. I asked some guys about Favors. One player told me that the top had already popped and he was ready to explode. Others said he wasn't quite ready yet. And I think that's somewhat consistent to what you should expect right now with this limited amount of time that they're having on things. The big news around the NBA, unquestionably, CP3 to Blake Griffin is a reality. Clippers give up Eric Gordon, who's quite a good player. They give up the unprotected Minnesota pick, which is pretty big. Al-Farouq Aminu, we'll see. But the Clippers have now built themselves into Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. They gave up Chris Kaman. Everyone is so excited about this, and to some extent, rightfully so. I almost might argue the Chauncey Billups pickup is as big a deal, if not bigger. Chauncey was still terrific last year. People I don't quite know what's going on with kind of the lack of love for Chauncey. Why everybody, it seems, has just kind of decided after he got moved in the Carmelo deal that he was somewhat done. I don't think he is older, but I don't think anything could be further from the truth. And the reason I mention this is the big number that shows a player declining is his percentage of possessions he goes to the free throw line. Chauncey Billups went to the free throw line 16% of the time last year. He also shoots from three 30% of his possessions. I mean, that's a fabulous mixture right there. He's a 92% free throw shooter. He goes to the free throw line 16% of his possessions. If he shoots a three, which he does 32% of his possessions, he's a 40% three-point shooter. This was the number one efficient point guard in the NBA last year. He comes out number one on the Locke offensive ranking. He still needs to be on the floor. I'm not sure what kind of defensive team the Clippers are going to be. Blake was not a very good defensive player last year, but he's developing. But Chauncey's the big pickup here. Chris Paul, there's some nervousness. 2 years might be all the Clippers want out of him. They gave an awful lot. He is declining the last few years since some of the injuries. His Locke offensive rankings have slid considerably. Let me pick up the paper that I tweeted out last night. He went from a 32 Locke offensive ranking. 0 is replacement level. 10 is league average. 20 is really high level. 30 is elite. Like last year, I think there were 9 guys over 30. In 08-09, Chris Paul was a 31.5. That's really unheard of. The next year, he was a 22.5. Okay, it's still elite, top 20, 30, probably top 30 in the league. Last year, he was a 19. Now, it's still good, but he's slipping a little bit right there. You know, for example, Chauncey Billups last year was a 31.8. Chauncey Billups' Locke offensive ranking last year was better using a possession than Chris Paul has been in his career. So people are very excited. They should be, but I really think Chauncey's the pickup that makes the huge difference there, and I think it's really going to hurt New York a little bit. Denver was able to get through it. By the way, on that stat of 15% of your possessions to the free throw line, 30% or more you're shooting threes, there are only 3 players in the NBA who did that last year. Chauncey Billups, Danilo Gallinari, and James Harden. And that is why I think Gallinari and Harden are both on the verge of major explosions, and those are the players that are going to change the Western Conference this year. Harden clicks in Oklahoma City, becomes the number 1 seed. Gallinari's as good as I think he'll be. Denver's a 4 seed. And those guys will make some big differerences. We've been talking for about 8 minutes here, and luckily we have switched our YouTube account over to a new sign up. I just had some issues with that. So it allows us to go a tad longer today, though I still have to get the kids and do all that stuff. So let me hit to some of the Locke tip-off questions. Again, you can send me questions via Twitter with the hashtag Locke Tipoff. This one comes from Rich Hardman. Are there ever open practice where the public can come and see and watch? Yeah, this Saturday. And Rich, I hope you come by. Rick, excuse me. I hope you come by and say hi. What is holding Devin Harris back from returning to being an elite or all-star caliber point guard? That's from Terrell and Taylor. I think that's a great question. I tweeted some numbers out last night at Locked On Sports also about Devin Harris. His Locke offensive ranking in 07-08 was 19.1. And in 08-09 was 21.2. Those are great. Those are elite top 30 numbers. He's never going to do better than that. In 09-10, he dropped to 3.8. Last year, he got back to 12.6. So what is it? Part of it, he's going to the free throw line a little less. He was going to the free throw line in those years at a fabulous rate. If you go back to his 08-09 Devin Harris numbers, he went to the free throw line 18% of his possessions. He wasn't a very good shooter that year. He shot 44% from the field and 29% from three. And scored 21 points a game. He used a lot of possessions. In my system, credits you if you use a possession above the league average. It gives you credit for that. I do think there's a real skill in being able to get a shot off. So that was probably the biggest increase is that he used those possessions because it's hard to use a lot of possessions. The year prior in 07-08, he was using 15 possessions a game. His Locke offensive ranking was 19, which is at that 20 level. And he went to the free throw line a little less at 13.4. Now then things fell apart for him in the year in which he just became incredibly inefficient. He shot just 40% from the field, 27% from three. Just did not hit his shots, and he slipped down to 14% from the free throw line of his possessions from the free throw line. Now, last year, there were some signs of that coming back. You can see it in the Locke offensive numbers that he went to 12.6, which is now, at least he's above average, and he played some of that time in New Jersey in that kind of disastrous situation. He went to the free throw line about 15% of his possessions. If he's going to be great this year, he's got to get to 16 or 17. He shot 32% from three and 42% from the field. Those have to notch up a tiny bit. But he did use 17 possessions a game, and I think he's probably going to have to use 18 or 19 possessions a game. And I do not have a capability right now. I've found a site that allows me to switch his Jazz and New Jersey numbers, but I'll try to see. Actually, I do have it, and I will look into that and try to get that for you coming up, and maybe I'll post that for you. Do a little post on Locked On Jazz. I did a Locked On Jazz post on Andre Karolinko. If you want to read a little bit about that, it's interesting how really we need Andre to win the last few years, and to be without him, I think, will be very, very difficult. Can you make sure we see this lineup this year? Alec at the 1, Gordon at the 2, Evans at the 3, Favors the 4, Cantor at the 5. Maybe only in a preseason game, and that lineup will never win a game. But obviously we want to see our guys. As of right now, my guess would be Devin Harris, Raja Bell, Gordon Hayward, Paul Millsap, Al Jefferson, with a second team that is Memo, Favors, C.J. Miles, Alec Burks, and Earl Watson. That's a pretty deep team. Again, I said it yesterday, it's starless. There aren't 30 stars in the NBA. Realize that. There are a bunch of good players, but stars are different, and stars usually win. R. Scott Tense wants to know where do you put the chance of the Warriors getting the Jazz getting the Warriors pick? So it's top 7 protected, so there's got to be 7 teams worse than the Warriors, and there probably are. Sacramento, Minnesota, Toronto, Cleveland, Detroit, maybe Utah is 6. Need 1 or Houston, 7. So that's kind of what we need. Then if the Warriors are 8, we get that pick, and that's worth that. That's a huge issue. The next year it's 7 protected. Or 6 protected. So those are probably the big issues. All right, send me what do I like or dislike on Josh Howard was the last question. Honestly, the only thing I like about Josh Howard would be if he comes in at $3 million, which is kind of the word I'm hearing, that you're getting a guy who has at one point in time been a $10 million a year player. He was never a particularly efficient offensive player. So I've never been a huge fan. That's what I like. I like players use possessions above the league average, and he's always been a little bit below that. He really looked done when he was in Washington, and so the Jazz are going to have to check that out and try to figure out what was going on there. Washington's a pretty bad situation, but talking to some people last night, they felt as though there was a chance that Josh was done. This is a pretty big risk, but I guess if you're only paying $3 million, which is a lot, but it's not in the NBA parlance, that it's probably worth that risk. Furthermore, the Jazz just need a 5th wing who can play. There's a lot of games. Guys are going to get hurt. Likely guys could turn ankles or whatever and have 2 guys out at the same time, and you've got to have that extra guy. All right, level9sports.com. Please stop by, say hi today. That starts at around a little after 1, and I'll be down there. We'll barbecue. We'll ode to the snow gods. Bring your old equipment. That should be a lot of fun. See you at opening night, and then remember, Saturday's the scrimmage. There is today's edition of Tip Off.